Dear students, today we will discuss the subject of elements of civil engineering. This subject is a subject to be taught in a first year. Civil engineering is an engineering which is concerned mainly with the structures and specifically the buildings. Looking to the subject code is 2111004. There will be 4 lectures per week. There will be 2 hours practical session during the week. Looking to the examination scheme, there are 70 marks for the theory paper. There will be 30 marks will be a mid-sem examination. There will be 20 marks for the internal evaluation throughout the semester. And at the end of the your exam, there will be practical exam of 30 marks. So total marks given is 150 and the credit is 6. In this subject, the topics will be covered are introduction, then surveying, leveling and mapping, building materials and construction, building planning and drawing, water resources engineering, transportation engineering. These topics will be discussed in this subject. Today, we will discuss the first topic of introduction. Civil engineering is basically concerned with the construction of the structures. Here you are seeing different multi-storied buildings constructed on the seashore. Topics covered are branches of civil engineering, the scope of civil engineering, role of civil engineering, then impact of the infrastructural development on the nation's economy. These topics are the parts of chapter 1 and that we are going to discuss today. Before we start our discussion, we will see some basic concepts relating to engineering. First, we will see what is the science. Science is a systematic knowledge. Normally, whatever we understood by science is a systematic knowledge relating to the natural things. Then comes the engineering. The engineering is the application of the science. When we apply the knowledge to solve our day-to-day problems and we create the facilities and for the betterment, upliftment of the people, then it becomes engineering. Another word is also used with the engineering, that is technology. Technology means solving the problems with some technique. When you solve a problem with some technique, some art, and then that becomes a technology. So that is engineering. In short, engineering is the application of the mathematical and the scientific knowledge for the solution of the problems. What is civil engineering? Civil engineering is a very old discipline of engineering and it is concerned mainly with the structures and the public utility. It is defined by many organizations in a different way. Let us see some definitions. This is the definition which is adopted in the Royal Charter of Institution of Civil Engineers, London. That definition says that civil engineering is the art of directing the great sources of power in nature for the use and convenience of the man. Means different sources of the power which are used for the convenience of the man. This is one definition. The another definition which is given by Frederick S. Merritt in his Standard Handbook of Civil Engineering, which says that civil engineering is that field of engineering concerned with planning, design and construction for environmental control, development of natural resources, buildings, transportation, and other structures. You see, in civil engineering, the major part or the major task which a civil engineer has to do is to construct the different structures for the either it may be a building, or it may be a canal, or it may be a water treatment plant, or it may be a dock or a port. So a civil engineering major task is to construct different structures, and he is dealing with the structures of the public utility, means all the general purpose structures like the roads, these are used by the public. So this comes under the task of civil engineer. Civil engineering deals with the structures of public utility like buildings, roads, dams, canals, railways, and the public health. So this is what I have given you, some basic concept and basic introduction of what the civil engineering is. Now we will start discussing about the different branches of civil engineering. Civil engineering is a very wide field, as I have just told you. It covers many different types of the activities, different types of the structures. There are so many tasks to be performed by the civil engineer. So, the different branches of civil engineering are: number 1 is the surveying and leveling. Number 2 is the building planning and construction. Number 3 is the advanced construction. Number 4 is the structural engineering. Number 5 is the geotechnical engineering. Number 6 is the water resources engineering. Number 7 is the transportation engineering. Number 8 is the environmental engineering. And number 9 is the town planning. In total, these are the total 9 branches of civil engineering. They are also known as the areas of civil engineering, or the divisions of the civil engineering, or the fields of civil engineering. These are the different fields of civil engineering. Let us see the different branches of engineering one by one. Number 1 is the surveying and leveling. Surveying is basically a science of measurement of distances and the angles. In this surveying, we are measuring the different distances with the help of the chain. Then the tape is also there. Different measuring instruments are used. For measurement of the angles, we have a compass and the theodolite. When we measure the distances in a horizontal plane, it is known as surveying. And when we measure the distances in a vertical plane, then it is known as a leveling. So there are 2 basic parts of surveying. One is surveying, as I have told you, in the horizontal plane. Leveling in the vertical plane, that is to measure the difference of the height. For the purpose of leveling, the instrument used is a level. There are many different types of the level are available. The commonly used level is a dumpy level. Then one is a tilting level. Nowadays auto levels are also available. So basically it is a measurement of distance and angles. Now on the basis of the different measurements are taken, they are recorded in a field book, and then after these recorded measurements are transformed into the maps. The main objective of surveying is to prepare the maps. So you might have seen the map of a Gujarat or our country India. How these maps are prepared? These maps are prepared on the basis of the measurements which are taken. A village map, a cadastral map, many different types of the maps are prepared on the basis of the measurements taken out. Another important use of surveying is the setting out of the foundation. When the foundation of a particular building is to be set out on the ground, we can use theodolite or any other engineering instruments for setting out that particular foundation from the drawing of which is prepared by architecture to be set on a ground. So setting out of foundation is also one important task to be carried out in surveying. The different instruments which are used in surveying are: one is a chain, tape, compass, level, theodolite, total station, GPS. These are the instruments used. Nowadays, total station is a modern, versatile instrument being used by the surveyor. This is an electronic digital measurement instrument. With the help of this instrument, you can measure the angles, you can measure the distances, you can measure the coordinates of the different point, you can create a traverse, you can set the alignment of the highways, railways, etc. This instrument is very much useful in the measurement of the distances and angles. After the surveying, the second branch of the civil engineering is the building planning and construction. As I have told you, that the buildings are of prime importance to the civil engineers. Different types of the buildings are to be planned according to the function that particular building is going to serve. Each buildings will have a different units. Say for example, the residential buildings are having the units of the living room, then the bedroom, then the kitchen, then the toilet, then the store, and many other different types of the units are there in a building. Suppose if you plan a school building, then the different units of the school building will be the classroom, the laboratories, the library, the toilets, and the principal's office, staff room, and many other facilities, a sports ground, etc. So these different types of the units are to be planned. This comes under this branch of civil engineering, building planning and construction. Now the buildings are planned according to the bylaws which are being prepared by the local municipality or any other local government, local authorities. These local authorities are preparing the bylaws and the buildings are to be planned according to these bylaws. Buildings are having the different components. The important components, like one is the foundation, then is the walls, doors, windows, flooring, roofing. These are the different types of the building components. The main classification of the buildings is a residential or public building. Residential buildings are the row houses, the apartments, bungalows, villas. Public buildings are the schools, colleges, libraries, banks, offices, and marketplaces. This all comes under the category of the public building. Each building is to be designed or planned according to the function that particular building is to perform. Say for example, the residential building is constructed for the purpose to create a living space, while a school building is being constructed for purpose of a teaching. So different types of the purposes are there, and accordingly to the function that particular building is to perform, these buildings are planned. This is a reinforced cement concrete framed structure building. Nowadays, most of the building we see are the RCC frame structure building. So you can see the columns and beams in the building. This type of the buildings are known as a RCC framed structure buildings. The third branch is the advanced construction. Apart from the building, there are many heavy structures are to be constructed by the civil engineers, like construction of the dams, bridges, ports, runways, tunnels, etc. This comes under the category of the advanced construction. This requires advanced technology, skilled manpower and machinery. Heavy earth-moving machinery like bulldozers, power shovel, drag line, different types of the cranes, the concrete mixing plant. So this type of the different machineries are required to construct this type of the heavy structures. These structures require a very large quantity of the concrete. So therefore, a concrete mixing plant is generally required to be erected at the construction site when this type of the heavy structures are being constructed. The different different types of the foundations. These foundations for the bridges are the pile foundation and the well foundation. These are the foundations normally constructed for the construction of the bridges. Cofferdams and caissons are required to be constructed for the underwater foundation. So this advanced type of the technology is required in the case of construction of these heavy structures. The fourth branch of civil engineering is the structural engineering. You see, nowadays the steel structures and the RCC structures are common. This structure design requires analysis of the structure and the design. Now, at the time of designing the structure, the safety of the buildings are to be kept in the mind. All the stresses which will be generated into the different components of the structure, like the beams, columns, slabs, etc., the stresses within this component should be within the permissible limit. That is a basic need of designing any structure. To make a structure safe against all the external forces like the wind forces, earthquake forces, live load, and the different types of the loads which are acting on that building or a structure. At the same time, the foundation which is required to be designed must also be safe. So for that purpose, soil investigation is to be carried out and a measurement of the safe bearing capacity of a particular soil is to be measured so that on the basis of that safe foundation can be designed. You see that in the structural engineering, lots of analysis and the design work is to be carried out, which requires much calculation. For this type of the much calculation, we have nowadays softwares are available. STED is one example of this type of the software which is being used by the structural engineers for the design of the different structure. As I have mentioned earlier also, steel and the reinforced cement concrete, that is known as the RCC, these two are the most common material which the civil engineers are nowadays using for the construction of any structure. One another material, that is masonry, that is either a stone masonry or a brick masonry, that is also being used. But this masonry is normally used for the purpose of the partition wall, and the major structure is normally either a steel structure or a RCC structure. The fifth branch of engineering is the geotechnical engineering. As we have just seen in our earlier discussion, that the safe design of foundation is very important. So all the structures which is made up of the earth, this comes under the category of the geotechnical engineering. Like for example, earthen dam. So earthen dam is constructed with the help of the soil. So the designing of that particular earthen dam comes under the branch of the geotechnical engineering. The one important task to be done in this branch is the soil investigation. Different types of the soil strata are to be investigated. Their soil parameters are to be measured, like their density, their porosity, their cohesion. So different types of the soil parameters are to be measured in the soil investigation. Safe bearing capacity is also measured. On the basis of the safe bearing capacity, the design of the proper foundation is to be carried out. Then after the design of the earthen dams, then the tunnel engineering, construction of the highways. So this type of the different structures, construction of a retaining wall, to analyze the stability of a slope. So this all sorts of the structures comes under the category of the geotechnical engineering, and whenever a major construction is to be carried out, there always a role of the geotechnical engineering. Principal role is the design of the foundation. Now we will discuss the sixth branch, that is water resources engineering. Civil engineer has to deal with the many different type of the structure, out of which the structures which is relating to the water resources, they are of very importance. Dam, barrages, canals come under this type of the structures. Now water resources engineering is concerned with the development and utilization of the water resources by the construction of hydraulic structures like dams and barrages. Water resources engineering is mainly concerned with the irrigation engineering. Irrigation means the artificial supply of the water to the crops for the development of that particular crop. So normally the main purpose behind the construction of the dam is the irrigation. But that is not the only purpose. There are many different other purposes are as well with the construction of the dams. One of the important another purpose is the power generation. When you construct a dam, there is a lots of potentiality to develop the hydropower with the construction of the dam. One another purpose of construction of this dam is a water supply. For the purpose of water supply to the towns and villages, this stored water will be very much useful, and it will solve the problem of a surface drinking water is available with this construction of the dam. Many different types of the hydraulic structures are there, like dams. One is a barrage, the canal, the aqueduct, the super passage, the canal escape, weir, check dams, development of the watershed. Watershed is an area surrounded by the ridge lines. So, whatever the water which is coming by the rainfall in a watershed area can be stored, can be conserved, and a development of watershed can be made with the help of the construction of the check dams, bunds, the different types of the other contour bunds may be also be constructed to soil conservation and the water harvesting. So this type of the watershed development also come under the scope of the water resources engineering. This another the water resources engineering is also dealing with the subject of the hydrology. In hydrology, the study of the rainfall, study of the runoff, and study of the flood is also carried out. One of the other purpose of constructing the different hydraulic structure is also a flood control. When you construct a dam, so you can control the flood on the downstream side of that particular dam. So water resources is a very wide field, and in that, with the help of constructing different hydraulic structures, better utilization of the water can be made, and it will also help in the economic development because the agricultural products are boosted up with the help of the construction of the dam. This is a picture of SARDAR SAROVAR NARMADA Dam. This is a major project being carried out by the Gujarat government, and with the construction of this dam, the economy of the Gujarat as well as that of our country will be definitely going to be boosted up. Next branch is the transportation engineering. In transportation engineering, which is dealing with the movements of the passengers and the goods. Goods traffic is normally being carried out on the roads, railways, and with the help of the ships. Movement of the passengers is normally carried out on the roads, railways, and by the airline. This movements of the passengers, movements of the good comes under the transportation engineering. The different sections of this transportation engineering, one is the highway engineering, construction of the roads, different types of the roads like the expressways, the national highways, state highways, major district roads, other district roads, and the village roads. They are constructed for the purpose of the transportation and to facilitate the vehicular traffic on them. One aspect of transportation engineering is the construction of the bridges. Whenever there is a drainage, natural drain is coming or a river is coming, this type of the obstructions can be crossed over with the help of the bridges. In the urban areas, when there is a problem of traffic congestion, we are constructing the overbridges so that the problem of the traffic is reduced. This construction of the bridges will help in the smooth transition of the two intersecting roads where the traffic is congested, so there will be a smooth transition of the traffic due to construction of the overbridges. Railway is also a very important transportation means. All the majority of the goods traffic, this is being conveyed by the railways. all the international trades depends on the docks, ports and the harbors. All the overseas transportation of the goods is normally being carried out on the ports with the help of the sea route. So this type of the transportation is known as a sea route traffic, and this is for the international traffic. Airports, this will provide a international passenger traffic normally. So these are the different aspects of the transportation engineering. Different construction of the structures required will be the bridges, the highways, then the runway, then the ports, then the harbors, docks, jetties. This type of the railway track structures are constructed for the purpose of the transportation engineering. This is a one picture of the highway. This is a one picture of a narrow gauge train in the mountainous region. This is a picture of a Delhi metro. It is also a transportation means in an urban area. This picture is of the Ahmedabad-Baroda Expressway. This is the India's #1 expressway constructed. This is a picture of the BRTS network constructed in the Ahmedabad. This is a urban transportation means of transporting the passenger traffic in a urban area. The next branch which we are going to discuss is the environmental engineering. Environmental engineering, as we know, is nowadays very important because it is related primarily with the pollution control. So, environment means basically the surroundings, whatever surrounding to our human life, that is the earth, water and the air. Nowadays, due to the increasing problem of the pollution, there are many different problems of environment we are facing today. One is the global warming is there, then the ozone layer depletion is there, then the depletion of the natural resources that we are also facing. All these problems are to be discussed and studied in this branch of civil engineering, that is environmental engineering. It is also treated as a separate branch of engineering is also there, but there is a role of civil engineer in the environmental engineering also. The different study which is being carried out in environmental engineering is one is the pollution control. Due to different pollutants, the different elements of nature like water and the air is being polluted. Due to the rapid urbanization and there is also industrialization, there is a lots of pollution is being created on this water and the air. So how to check it, how to treat it, what are the measures, what are the parameters to be studied, that comes under this topic of the pollution control. One important aspect of environmental engineering which a civil engineering is dealing is the public health engineering. Civil engineers are concerned with the water treatment plant and the wastewater treatment plant. Water treatment plant is constructed for treatment of the water prior it is being distributed to the town or a city. The source of the water may be either a river water or it may be a dam or sometimes it may be underground water source also. This water is to be treated prior it is being distributed, because when the raw water is collected from the source, it might have many different impurities like the hardness there may be a turbidity will be present, the dissolved solids will be also present, different chemicals might be present in that raw water. So that water is treated by the different units, like the clariflocculator is there is a rapid sand filter is there is a chlorination unit is there. These are the very important treatment units for the water. After the proper treatment of the water in the water treatment plant, the water is stored in an underground sump, then it is taken to the elevated service reservoir, what we normally call it as a tank, overhead tank, what we normally call. From that tank, the water is allowed to pass into the water supply pipe networks, and through this pipe network, the water is to be distributed into the town. One another network which civil engineering is also dealing with the in the public health engineering is the wastewater treatment plant. Whatever the wastewater which is coming from the locality, that may be either from the residential areas in the form of the sewage, it may be coming from the industrial area, which may be the outlet of the some industry. So different wastewater, they are collected by the network of the sewerage in the town. Then they are pumped to the sewage treatment plant, and in sewage treatment plant they are treated. Before the wastewater being discharged into a natural stream or a river, it cannot be discharged without proper treatment. So the different treatments are to be given. Their biological treatment is also given, and the other chemical treatment is also given. And after the wastewater being treated, and then after it is being discharged into the natural river or waters. So this wastewater treatment plant, the entire sewerage network, the water treatment plant, and the different water distribution network is to be planned, designed, being operated and maintained by the civil engineer. So that in that part, civil engineer has a great role to play in the field of environmental engineering. One another task to be performed in this environmental engineering is the solid waste disposal. The different waste are produced in a locality. One important type of the waste is the solid waste. They are to be collected and they are to be disposed properly. So this is also come under the environmental engineering. Then the ninth branch is the town planning. One of the important tasks which a civil engineer has to perform is a planning of a building and planning of a town. Whenever you see the different gardens, different shopping complex and different industries, these are well located in a town. This happens because of the proper planning of the town. Whenever a growth of a town is taking place, it should be well planned, and in that particular task, the civil engineer has a very important role to play. Entire land of the town is to be divided into the different zones. This may be a residential zone, this may be a commercial zone, this may be an industrial zone, this may be a recreational zone. So these are the different types of the zones according to which the development of the different buildings and structures are permitted for that purpose. Then after, one of the important aspect is the building bylaws. So what will be the floor space index? What will be the criteria for the margins? What will be the criteria for the different types of the open spaces to be left in a society? This all comes under the bylaws of the buildings. these bylaws are being prepared by the local municipal bodies. And when a civil engineer is planning a building, that building should be planned according to the bylaws which are prevailing in the town. By that, the construction activity and the growth of the construction is being planned as well as restricted in a town, so that there should not be a dense population is living on a small area. To avoid that thing, the major parameter which is there in the bylaws is a floor space index. With that parameter, the construction activities and the total floor space which is going to be constructed in a town is restricted, and due to that the growth of the town is taking place in a very planned and in a very controlled manner, so that the basic facilities which the dwellers of a town they will require may be maintained. Then one is the planning of a very large area. When you plan several towns and several villages together, then it becomes a regional planning. Within the regional planning, the different towns and the villages are planned together. Their transportation network is also planned. Then the different commercial, different types of the residential zones, industrial zones are to be well planned, so that the growth of the industry as well as the growth of the commercial areas can be made in that particular town in a very planned manner. One of the another aspect of the planning is to have a green area in the town. So enough space should be left for the gardens, as well as an open space must be available, so that the green areas may be there in the town. So this aspect of the civil engineering is the town planning. Now, after seeing the different branches of civil engineering, we will see the different scope of civil engineering. As we have seen the different branches, we know that the civil engineering is a very wide field and covers many different branches. Therefore, the scope of civil engineer is also a very wide. The basic or the fundamental duties which a civil engineer has to perform is the planning, designing, estimating, supervising the construction and maintenance of the structures. This is a very important and the main duties what we now call as a scope of a civil engineer. Before the construction of any structure begins, well planning of that structure is very much required. So the work starts right from the planning of a particular structure. In that, the different surveying, different aspects of surveying is carried out. Soil investigation is also carried out. Many other data are carried out, and according to the need of that particular structure, it is being planned in a systematic manner. Then after, it is to be designed. In the design, the various structural components are designed according to the principles of the design. In the discussion of the structural engineering, we have seen the designing of the steel and the RCC structures. This, after designing, an estimate is to be prepared for that particular structure. After the estimate is prepared, the work will be assigned to some contractor for the execution, and during the execution, the particular at the time of this execution, the construction activities needs to be supervised by the civil engineer. One of the important tasks which a civil engineer has to perform is the supervising the construction. During the supervision, engineer has to give the different lines and levels. He has to guide the contractor. He has to guide the workers who are working on the field. He should have a quality check on the different qualities of the materials. So the role of civil engineer during construction is supervising the construction as well as to guide the contractor and the other persons who are working on the field. Then after, the management of your construction site is also very important. So these different activities are to be planned, are to be coordinated by the management techniques in a very systematic order. Then after, once the construction is over, the role of civil engineer comes in the maintenance of the structure. A structure requires a maintenance. There are some maintenance are to be carried out on an annual basis, like the whitewashing as well as that of the painting. Other maintenance may be carried out as per the need. There may be a special or the special maintenance are to be carried out as and when where it is required. So the scope of the civil engineering mainly is dealing with the planning, then after the designing, then after the estimating, then after the supervising, and then after at the end when the construction is over, then one has to maintain the structure. Now, the scope of the civil engineering is to be divided in a twofold manner. One of the scope of engineering is to be carried out according to the functions which that is to be carried out. Which type of the structures which are being to be carried out, that one is the scope, one is type of the structures to be constructed, one is the type of different functions which a civil engineer has to carry out. The scope. So, before we conclude today's lecture, we will revise some important things. Today we have seen what is civil engineering. Civil engineering is basically engineering dealing with the construction of the structures. We have seen the different branches of civil engineering, like the surveying and leveling, building construction, advanced construction, transportation engineering, and water resources engineering, environmental engineering, and many other types of the different branches of engineering. Today we have seen the scope of engineering. We will discuss in detail next time. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.